Elizabethan tornado round over London today. They were godfire in the state.
I was very interested in finding a character from England's past who was some kind of magician type figure. And when I asked Alan Moore that question, he reminded me of John Dee, this largely forgotten but immensely important character, you know, who Isaac Newton described as one of his great influences, who Shakespeare based Prospero on in The Tempest. And it's suggested that Kit Marlowe based Faustus on John Dee.
Dee came here in 1594 as Warden of Manchester. So this would have been Dee's building. And Dee's whole philosophy, if we can describe it as that, is to really uncover the sort of meaning of the universe. He believed that mathematics, that numbers were really God's language, and that really by uncovering mathematics, so by studying mathematics, you could get to know the mind of God.
Maybe it's the distance of 400 years, but he seemed to be like someone who I could really understand why they'd entertain travelling on a more occult, esoteric path.
He's this amazing figure who, partly because of his obsession towards the end of his life, his obsession to try and communicate with angels, he had this fall from grace which really wrote him out of the history books.
Damon Albarn and Rufus Norris are big Dee fans, that they've put in a huge amount of work and read really widely on this, so they were interested in seeing the material. And since then we've been sending sort of JPEGs and TIFFs of images from the books and title pages and the rest of it.
I've never really researched making a record, but I found that the more I researched, the more sort of singing from the heart became the way forward, and that incorporating any of the stuff I'd learned, it would be the stuff that I'd really kind of understood and so could emotionally express, as opposed to just taking verbatim concepts from his mind. I sort of gave my very sort of rudimentary understanding of what he was talking about through the cipher of my own experience and my own sort of emotion. I mean, from my own personal experience, I've spent probably in the last 10 years more time sort of in different places learning very rudimentary aspects of other cultures. But it's strange, it's sort of when I come back, you start to understand the real connection between those cultures and our culture. And this is a really nice period because you know, all the Arabic concepts were by this point pretty much embedded into European minds.
My job on this project has been to listen to a lot of Damon's compositions and his songs and his ideas for this Dr. Dee show, and work out with him what instruments we could use, what instruments we've got with the BBC Philharmonic, and how we might score it. So most of it has been getting to know what is in his head, understanding how his brain works and how his musical ideas work, and then trying to realise them in score form so that musicians could come into a session. I could give them a piece of paper, play them a little bit, explain a little bit, and say, this is what we want to try and create. Because we're mixing 16th century instruments with 12th century African instruments, with contemporary orchestral instruments. And the thread through it all is Damon's sort of unique voice.
Thinking up your plan now, carve your name in banner then. Fantastic!
It sounds like nothing I've really heard, and it is interesting listening to the rehearsals, because as I hear each scene and each new piece of music and each new staging, I'm more and more intrigued by it, and for me that's a good sign. You're hearing Damon's songs, but you're hearing this quite eclectic orchestration and sound world. I'm excited about it.
Dr John Dee was this great alchemist, and in a way we've reflected that spirit in the way the piece has been made. So it's very much a devised piece. It's been, over the last 10 weeks, 3 different rooms with music, actors, and a spare room with other things happening there. And it's very much about bringing them together, but it's been a kind of alchemic act in itself.
True and faithful, servant
Yeah, I haven't felt inhibited at all. You know, it's not London, so I don't have to have all those distractions, but it's still home, so I can still, you know, it's far enough away to be liberating, but not too far away to be debilitating.
You know, the more we've read and discovered about John Dee, the more important he seemed to be about all of our current history. So that's what I'd like. Have a good night, some amazing music, and a little bit of an interest in somebody that they'd never heard of before.
What would Dee make of 21st century England, do you think?
I'm sure he'd be very interested in the internet and string theory probably, and you know, he would want to know. The problem is he'd want to know everything, and maybe that would be frustrating, because maybe even he couldn't take on all the information that we have available now.